Hello and welcome to the WarDawg Trail podcast. This is your host, Sergeant WarDawg, and we are live for episode 143. Now, today I have a very unique and say talented, but related to me in a very cool way. All right, this guest is gonna let you know one of the coolest and most intelligent journeys I've ever heard, in my life. So hold on, all right. Now remember, as always, you can find my book, The WarDawg Trail, a Marine Rifleman's Struggle, SD, on Apple, Audible, and Amazon. All right. Additionally, remember by Book Authority, the book was named one of the best Iraq war books of all time. You can find that at authority.org. Tomo usually joins each episode, but Tomo could not tune in from Thailand today. All right. He's an Australian. He's normal Australia, but last two episodes, he's been doing this thing in Thailand. All right. And last but not least, we just had our 501(c)(3) nonprofit approved. All right. Camp Doghouse. Our information can now be found at campdoghouse.org. I've been working at this since 29 years in the running. Bought the land in 2018. I used it as a grunt, left it as it was, never cleared it. Just used the tent. That was the therapy that broke through for me. So I know that those who, might need therapy because they're used to the outdoor settings, the combat arms settings. The statistics with us. Only about 4% of the entire military, is actually in the combat arms field or MOSs. Right? So basically, only about 4% of us, touch a gun more than once a year, annually qualify. All right, guys like that. That's who might I don't know, click a little bit more with. Now we will be picking up to 20 homeless veterans in the Florida area, mainly Orlando, Kissimmee, and the St. Cloud areas. Okay. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is the WarDawg Trail, episode 143. Now, before I bring him on the stage, again, to let you know, by blood, by relation, because I thought this, the coolest thing that ever happened to do. I'm bringing you my dad, all right? My dad, Mr. Carnell Smith Sr., all right? One that made me, know who I am and the Marine I can be, all right? Now, not only is he now and has he been a CEO, computer engineer, there's too many to name, helped change laws for paternity fraud around the world. I can't put enough names. He will, all of the titles for which we will show gratitude. All right, ladies and gentlemen, without ado, I now bring to the stage the one, the only, my dad, Mr. Carnell Smith Sr. Welcome to the show, Dad.
Hey, how you doing, Sergeant WarDawg? Thank you for the invite. Let me take this off. All right, now, no effects. Hey, I am honored to be on the Sergeant WarDawg show with you. And for those in your audience, I hope this will be an engaging and informative, I like to call it edutaining, right? Because as Carnell Smith, I'm known as the paternity coach. I'm a legislative advocate, author, and I believe in using DNA law and social policy to help men, women, and families identify the truth and then use the truth to help them solve questions in their family.
Good deal. Good. All right. Um, will you walk us through, where you're from, your back, that sort of thing?
Okay, all right. So, where am I from? Um, I've been in Atlanta, Georgia for over 30 years, but I was born in a small town in Georgia, McRae, Georgia. Uh, but I spent most of my life in Florida. Went to an engineering high school, uh, and that after that, I took up an opportunity to pursue electronic engineering, computer science, and information technology, project management, and that led me to where I am today. I would be more in the line of a cloud cybersecurity engineer.
All right. Good deal. Good deal. Now, okay, walk us through what I know as far as high school, amazing high school track at intelligent 4.0 high school student. Walk us through, you know, what that was like,
Well,
even culturally, if you don't
hmm
mind,
hmm
for those situations, whatnot, and then beyond.
okay, okay. Well, athlete, I was gonna say limited life athlete. You went much farther than I did. I did play basketball, ran out for track. But after I broke my left arm and injured my left knee, I couldn't run as fast, and as a result, when you lose your speed, you sort of lose the attractiveness to why they want you on a track team. I was a sprinter, but
Exactly.
your
Exactly.
grandparents, look, your grandparents said to me that the athletics is your secondary path. Education is your primary path because it'll give you doors that you can walk through even if you get injured. And unfortunately for me, I got injured in as a sophomore, and that took me out of the sports. But I did manage to land in the gifted program, and that opened me up to a lot of opportunities to take the college prep track while in school. And I had to learn a few things. A lot of my classes, I was the only American male of African descent, also known as black guy. And that led to you had to learn how to be able to stand on your own and do your work, you know. Um, but amazingly, while I was in those coming up through those various schools, I never had problems with people who were of different ethnicities and other races and backgrounds. They respected the fact that I could do the work and that I could walk the talk like they did. Amazingly, over the
Right.
years, it seems to me the greatest criticism and harshness always came from our own people, saying that you trying to sound white or you're trying to. The ridicule says you're trying to act like one
Proper.
of those. Yeah, you're too proper. But in business, I can tell you, you need to learn to almost be trilingual, where depending on the audience you're with, can you adjust your communication style, right? Can you speak to that C-level audience, CEO, CFO, CIO? I end up having to do that in my current occupation. But can you also talk to the brother or the sister that's on the street and not try to use language above their, what they know as common day language and be able to have a conversation? Because to me, where one is in their social status in life, how much you make or what your education is doesn't make you a better person, doesn't make you a worse person, just gives you options. That's my point of view.
Nice. 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 I like that perspective. How about walk us into, let's say, becoming the advocate for
Okay.
paternity fraud, because that's basically the meat and potatoes, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm most well known for worldwide as a spokesman on the topic of paternity fraud.
All right.
It took, um, as often sometimes with men and boys, we sometimes choose the wrong person to be in a relationship with, And once we figure that part out, we make corrections, and we're like, okay, I'm done with her. Look, she can go her way. I'm going to go my way, and I'm done. In my case, several months after I broke up with the young lady, she calls me back and says, I'm pregnant. And I told her, well, congratulations. I hope you and your baby daddy be okay. But why are you calling me? And that started, look, that wrong phone call started the journey that affected me, tons of military men. I'm talking enlisted officers, even the cat that just made it to boot camp. Sometimes that smiling face will lie to you and say, you're my baby's daddy. And it took me 11 years to find out she lied. That kid wasn't mine. And she actually got pregnant 6 weeks after she broke up with me with a guy in another state. But because I was an engineer, I had a house, 2 cars, I had a business with 8 crews of DJs. I think that influenced her selection of who she wanted to be her baby's daddy. And I fought this all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court because I thought that, okay, truth should matter in court, right?
Right.
If you get 2 DNA tests
Really,
to prove
the
that,
term
the term is cuckolding. The cuckolding, which was what a cuckoo bird does, and it tricks another bird into raising its young, and then the cuckoo bird goes off and goes away. Well, that applies also in the human sphere, where some women and girls lie about who's the father of their child to trick that guy, and then to either uh, accepting the responsibility of being the dad, and sometimes they do that because that's the guy they love the most, or that's the guy who has the biggest bank, meaning that guy makes more money than the guy who she's running the streets with. Look, it's Ray Ray's baby, but Ray Ray, we don't have no legal job. So who is she gonna pick? For some cases, she's gonna pick the guy who has the W-2 income that can be provable. Unfortunately, that leads to men and boys being duped and deceived and used and abused for money. And I mean, I can tell you how that led to advocacy, because once I went to court, the judge said it was my fault that I didn't find out she lied sooner. And I was stunned. I'm like, huh? What? How would I know that she was lying? I had never dealt with somebody lying about something like that. And in fact, I was shocked. I would have thought nobody would do something like that, right? But when
right.
it comes to the art of deception, and there are close relationships, we find that there are married women, single women, rich, poor, women of all races. One of my affiliate groups, uh, Veterans Against Paternity Fraud, have over 600 men, including a 3-star general. All of them have been lied to by a wife or girlfriend. And then one vet that I came across, he had been married twice and had one girlfriend, and he thought he had kids with all 3 women. At my suggestion, I had him get DNA testing and also go to see a urologist and get a what we call a semen viability test. Turns out he was sterile. So all 3 of those women had
Wow.
lied to him, and they were still trying to make him pay child support, just like the woman tried to make me pay child support, and she sued me for $1,800 a month. And I didn't agree with that. I don't think a civilian or veteran should have to pay for a lady or woman having kids with Ray Ray or Road Dog or Chad, whoever it is she's having fun with. I think if they had the fun, they ought to be the ones to get the bill. Uh, After I showed this information to the court and then appealed it, Sergeant WarDawg, you don't believe this. I appealed this all the way to the United States Supreme Court with proof that this happened to over 1 million men and boys, and they would not
What?
even allow me to appeal the case. Want me to repeat it?
Please, I didn't
With
know it was a
proof.
million.
That's more than a million, because all of the DNA labs, there's over 44 of them. They track the number of people who took the test who turned out to not be the guy that she said it was. And that term is called an exclusion ratio. So if the DNA says 0% probability of paternity, Mr. X is not the biological father of this child, then it means he didn't lie. It means she lied or she made a mistake. And either in both cases, it's my position as an advocate, then the law should not make that guy responsible because he's a victim of being falsely accused. And after
Right.
going, you know, the U.S. Supreme Court had 2 meetings over the case. I challenge this on constitutional grounds, saying that once there is irrefutable scientific evidence that is incontrovertible, and this is proof beyond all doubt, 2 independent labs, the mother's own testimony, and I have all this proof that she never informed me that she was involved with someone else, and I only found out after the testing, then there's no way we should hold me or any teen boy or any single man, military man, married man, nobody. If the DNA says 0, he shouldn't have to pay. In fact, I want him to be able to get all his money back. Well, after the
Okay.
Supreme Court turned me down, I went back to court using the law that I co-wrote with the state legislators in Georgia. I went back and I won that case using the law that I wrote. I'm the first one to win his case using that. And then after that, I went on a tear nationwide, helping about 11
Yeah.
states with creating legislative proposals. I got contacted by groups. I actually had an affiliate group in Australia. I've been contacted by, had a TV crew come meet me out of Japan. Several other countries saying that, well, this should
Wow.
be standard. Look, it should be standard law. In fact, here's something, Sergeant WarDawg, I asked. Why not determine the truth from the beginning? Let's not ask the mothers any questions. Let's just do a DNA test from the beginning before they leave the hospital. Make sure we got the right baby with the right mama, the right guy who's on the birth certificate, and the kid now can trust that the information on the birth certificate is accurate. They fought me tooth and nail. And the women said, no, they shouldn't have to do DNA testing at birth. I'm like, well, since I've identified over 1 million men and boys who took the test who were proven that they weren't the dad, we know some of you ladies are lying. You either lying or you made a mistake. And in both cases, the women say these guys should still pay, and I disagree. And by the way, my state lawmakers voted 163-0 in the House of Representatives, 45-5, and the governor signed the bill. So I got legislative support. And the very next state that I went to, Sergeant WarDawg, was Florida. And through yours truly,
Right.
starting up a group of Florida citizens against paternity fraud, we managed to get a paternity fraud law passed in Florida too. It's
Good deal.
amazing how once people start taking a look at something that happens quite frequently, and that is some of the mothers do not know which guy is the child's father. And the danger for the military men is this. Sometimes they get targeted because they know about these women know about the serviceman's life insurance. They want to get signed up on the benefits, especially if this guy's about to deploy. So then this person managed to get access to his pay allotment. So now think about this. She's getting his money. She's a beneficiary on his life insurance, and the kid's not even his. So if he gets killed, she gets paid and gets declared as a widow. And my position is, if the military didn't issue you a wife while you were in boot camp, don't get one. Don't get married till you get out. Look, I've heard this from some what is it? What do you call those guys that lead boot camp? Is it Master Sergeant, something like that? Or
Drill sergeant.
Drill
Or
sergeant, drill
drill,
sergeant.
excuse me, not drill sergeant. I'm sorry, that's the Army. We say DI,
Okay.
drill instructor, drill
Okay,
instructor.
drill instructor. Well, I've had plenty of cats tell me, they said, well, military position is if they didn't issue you a wife, you don't need one.
I
And I tell them,
like
look,
that.
stay focused. Look, stay mission minded because it's an additional pressure to get caught up in the relationship drama to then find out that the one or all of the kids are not this guy's kids. Like one of the vets that I came across, um, his wife had 3 kids, but none of the 3 kids were his. So as they moved from base to base, as his duty stations were transferred, guess what? Whenever he deployed, she was out in the officers club or the NCO. I mean, she was having a ball, and she brought home 3 kids. Now, without a paternity fraud law in place, Sergeant WarDawg, those guys will be forced to surrender their retirement benefits, pay her alimony, pay her child support. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's right.
Right. Definitely agree to that. Can we pause there for a second? Because that obviously is a very big part of the subject for me.
Mm-hmm.
I have run into, let's say, females that try to poke a hole in a condom tank to, as you said, to snatch a military guy or something. I have
Mm-hmm.
run into actual females who were so drunk in front of me that they admitted, yes, I only mess with military guys because when they get paid on the 1st and the 15th, I get paid on the 1st and the 15th. And that made me
Yeah.
pause. I was only, maybe 19, 20, but it made me pause and look like, okay, I see what y'all on now. Okay, I see what time it is, man. Really, really.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were bait
Yeah.
like that. I didn't know. And
Exactly.
even for older, like I said, I was 18, I don't know, being hit on by like 38-year-old type of thing. For the same thing. Benefits and
Exactly.
that sort of thing. So
Exactly.
it's a big thing for us when you understand you have a somewhat guaranteed income with the
Mm-hmm.
military government, but
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, you position that as how are these females looking at you in terms of true love or just an asset and a leech to or you know take
Exactly.
something from.
Exactly. You're spot on right there. Uh, I think there probably should be somewhat what do you call it? Preparation, coaching, training for just the men group, like segregate them out from all of the females that are joining, like on boot camp and tell them right up front. If you're about to do a 4 to 6 year stint, that if you're not already married, don't get married till you get out. And I would even encourage them end any relationship going in if you're going to be gone for an extended period of time, because I've seen guys get extremely emotionally and mentally uh, get their life turned upside down, Sergeant WarDawg, because they got these Dear John letters where, like, even though he's sending his check to her, she's talking about, well, I'm finna move out and I'm finna go date Ray Ray, and I've been dating this other cat while you're gone, and you're never here. And like, well, duh, you knew that when you started a relationship with the guy that he wasn't gonna be home all the time, right? And
Right.
and and especially like for the military people who are subject to deployment, that you have no control or say so over where you're going to go as your next duty state. It's not like, at least from what I've heard, you can't tell your commanding officer, well, look, I prefer to stay in California, so you guys go to Afghanistan and I'll stay here. I heard it doesn't work that way. What do you say?
They gotta agree.
Well, to me, it would be less stressful. It'd be less stressful mentally to not have to be concerned about a relationship back home. So if you don't have any kids before you go, you don't have a relationship before you go, you can stay forward thinking and mission minded on where you at, and not get into any I'm going to use this word that Will Smith's wife used. Don't get into any entanglements, right? And if look, and protect yourself at all times. And when we say protect yourself, you supply your own contraception. You never allow someone else to supply you with contraceptions, because folks do poke holes in it, or they might heat them up so that they are extremely weakened. And if you're using these
Wow.
things that are weakened, then what do they tear
Wow.
easily, they burst. And I look, because that guy looks like it's a financial hustle. Think about it that way. And that means the military guys are targeted. And probably one of the worst feelings is to feel that you've been taken advantage of, used and abused, and that you think you're going to come back and come to a family court and you think that you're going to get justice. That is not what I hear and what I've observed in over 20 years of me doing court watch. I've gone in on days of family court to take notes. I've taken groups of pastors in, because they some of those guys told me they didn't understand why the men were angry or why the men were frustrated after they had some contact with family court. So I said, well, I'll tell you what, rather than me try to explain it to you, I want you to take a notepad and we're going to take a field trip and we're going to do court watch. And then I want you to pay close attention to what you observe and observe how these men get treated. They're treated as if they're presumed guilty. They're treated as if they did something wrong. And a lot of times these guys that I've met in court, they're like, well, man, I just want to see my kid. I'm done with the relationship.
Right.
You hear me? He's saying, okay, all right, that part is done, but I still want to be involved with my kids, right? Probably one of the hardest things to do to stay involved with your kid is when the other parent moves the kid multiple states away, right? And you don't know where the kid is. Well, what do you think that
Right.
does to the military person who then thinks that, well, since I have a code of honor, I have a code of justice, I believe in truth, and I think that if I'm fighting for the rights of America outside the country, somebody should be supporting my rights in the country. Well, that might be great ideally, right? And from an idealistic point of view, that's great. And
In
that's why we say
theory,
it's
right? On paper.
in theory. Yeah. But in practice, I can tell you why men who encounter the family court often end up bankrupt, because they spend tens of thousands of dollars. Because when they get to court, they find out the mother doesn't show up. And now guess what? He's got to reset and come back again. And if you do that multiple times, and by the way, been there, done that, okay? I can tell you this experience is not just frustrating. It gets to a point to where some of the guys, Sergeant WarDawg, they get so emotionally broken down that some of them have taken their lives, and some of them have taken the lives of other people who have just frustrated them to no end. And I'm like, well, dang, it doesn't have to be this way. Like, why don't you guys make this court so that you actually help kids see both sides of their family, rather than frustrate and make it difficult for one of the parents to see the kids? Now, some of the lawmakers agree with that, and there's been a push to support what we call equal shared parenting, where right away the dad starts out with 50% and the mom starts out with 50%. But before that, Sergeant WarDawg, it starts out with mom gets 100%, the dad gets 0%, and the dad has to spend money to try to get anything. And if your
Really?
lawyer costs, look, Sergeant WarDawg, if your lawyer costs $325 an hour and you make $45 an hour, how long can you keep that fight going?
Not long.
Not
Not
long.
long. It's
So,
not
for the
sustainable. Not
veteran,
pragmatic.
look, yes, yes. So imagine this: after the guy has went through all of that, he finds out none of the children are his, and they still want to make him pay support and alimony. I can tell you why that guy's angry. I can tell you why he is depressed. And then he has anxiety because they've taken his driver's license, they've taken his business license. So now they took away his means to support himself.
Whoa. Please pause and back that up.
Uh-oh, you didn't know
I
this part.
know we're all aware of the driver's license. Please, from the business license on, and just inform me when did
Okay,
I didn't know business license. Is that multiple states? Is that
that's
how does
federal.
that work?
That's federal. That works federal because in 1996 to 1998, the Welfare Responsibility, Personal Work and Responsibility Act, signed by President Clinton, they introduced some measures. They claimed they didn't want to have all these moms on welfare, right? But a lot, what they don't take into account, that a lot of times that these moms are not in a relationship with a guy is not because he put her out, she left. So you can't make somebody stay, can't make somebody be in a relationship with anybody. We understand we can't legislate making people love each other, right? And we wouldn't want to either, right? But my thoughts are, if a person was in a relationship and they chose to leave, then they should be responsible for that decision, right? But
Oh,
when the guys are have no say so over how that thing turns out, and then he's advocating for himself without legal representation, too many of them lose their cases because they don't know the law, they don't know what their rights are, and they don't know how to effectively advocate for themselves in the pro se, pro per position, whether you're representing yourself. So strike there because you don't know how to defend yourself. And then if they do have a lawyer, sometimes they don't hire the right lawyer. They don't hire someone who is a family law attorney who is experienced in family law. I mean, you don't go to you don't go to your general doctor when you need a cardiologist. So there's times that you need a specialist for what you need help with, right? Well, in law, since there's over 20 different areas of law, there are specialty areas there, right? Now, how does this evolve to the point where you can lose your license? Well, for men who find out, and parents of teen sons, this thing ties them all together. If they find out that one child or more of the children are not theirs, most of them are like me, do not agree with paying that woman their resources for a responsibility that he didn't have anything to do with. Like, this is like make him responsible for a pregnancy he didn't commit. Well, if he doesn't pay Sergeant WarDawg, then he is subject to losing his license, having his business license revoked, having his checking, savings, and investments account seized, intercept his tax money, whether state or federal, lose his passport if it exceeds $2,501. Now, those are punitive actions. Now, let's add to that. You can go to jail, and they say that you will remain in jail until you pay the back child support. Wait a minute, but none of the kids are mine. Well, it's your fault you didn't know she lied to you. Well, gee,
whoa,
how does that make
wow.
sense? It doesn't make sense. And I said it is to the various legislative bodies I've talked to. I said, this is patently unfair. And essentially, you're using the power of the court as a bully pulpit to take advantage of men and boys, and for parents who have teen sons. If your son's a minor and this happens, then if your son is responsible and he's still under your charge, then your financial assets can become available for payment for a child that's not yours. So I guess this might be a good time, Sergeant WarDawg, to talk about the four main ways that men become victims, men and teenage boys become victims of what I call probably one of the slickest traps in the law ever. And There's four. So number one, a signed confession. And you look at me like, signed confession? Yeah. At the hospital, the technique is to get the guy to hold the baby. If you can get him to come to the hospital while the baby's there, tell him, hold the baby, right? And you do want your baby to have a father. And then they pull out an ink pen and say, sign right here. Sergeant WarDawg, does he have any proof that's his kid at that moment in time?
No, not there on the spot.
No.
In real time.
Okay. Does he even know what all of his options are at that moment in time? For most people, the answer is no. So is he being set up? So is he being set up and being emotionally manipulated to pull on his heartstrings to get him to make himself legally obligated for 18 to 21 years? And if the kid is special needs, it's a lifetime commitment, not just to age of majority. It is a lifetime commitment. Now, so signing without proof is dangerous. So number one, the paternity coach position is never sign without proof. Always get proof you did it before you sign something, admitting you did it. Number two, the marital presumption of paternity. Sergeant WarDawg, you probably didn't know this, but and some of you guys in your audience may not know this, but any children that the guy's wife has while he's married to her are automatically made and presumed to be his, even if she has all of those kids while he's deployed out in the field. And in most of the U.S. states and most of the U.S. territories, if she's married to him in name only, they could be legally separated. Do you know that in many of those cases, they will still come after him to make him pay and not the boyfriend who she's currently living with? So what's the advice to the married men? You're right. You're right. So what's the advice to the married men? Trust but verify. You can trust your boo thing. You can tell me all about this, your childhood sweetheart. Listen, I took the DNA test with my wife. I have even done the DNA test with your sister, Sergeant WarDawg. Not because I suspected something, but here's what some people try to do to try to discredit me. They say, well, why are you advocating for DNA testing to allow people to be tested at birth? How do you know that that little baby with your wife is yours? Well, listen to this. Here's what my wife did. She said, I'll take a test because I don't have anything to hide. She took the test with my senior pastor and his wife as witnesses. So I have DNA test results on what it looked like when the guy is the dad. And turns out I am the dad, right? Over 99.999. So over more than 1 billion to 1. Well, to me, that should be the natural response. So for the married guy, confirm any kids that your wife says are yours, confirm that they're yours so you don't get blindsided by a court later. Number 3, mistaken identity. Sergeant WarDawg says you
not
and
stolen,
I have this.
Not stolen. You said mistaken.
No, I said mistaken.
All right.
So here's how that works. There was a kid in a state ordered to pay child support. I think this kid was about 11 years old. This kid was ordered to pay child support for another kid who was about 17. Let that sit in.
Whoa.
How do you make an 11-year-old pay child support for a 17-year-old kid?
Yeah.
Here's how it's done. The kid had the same name as the guy who was on the child support order for that 17-year-old kid. And the mother of this little boy was saying, you guys are idiots. She went to the child support people and told them, you guys are fools. There ain't no way that my son could be the father of a 17-year-old kid. And do you know that they would not overturn it? So what we did in my advocacy is we told the lady that, listen, let's go get you on television and use, many of your television stations have what they call as a troubleshooter uh, series where they go in, they find out issues that affect the public, and they go spotlight these issues and put it on the air. And they name names, Sergeant WarDawg. They tell on everybody. And she came there with the receipts. She got her birth certificate for her little boy who is 11. It is scientifically, medically impossible for this boy to be the father of a 17-year-old. Well, only after the agency got embarrassed did they become willing to overturn trying to make him pay child support. Well, in my case, you and I have the same name. If someone had falsely come after you while you were, say, at the 2-9, and because I had also done legislative lobbying in California.
I got real quick. I got to show love to the Marines on that one. Hey, yeah. Pops knows what the 29 Palms, California Marine Corps. Salute to the Marine Air Ground Combat Center out there. All right. Most of the time, guys that are headed, the Middle East, Iraq, Afghanistan, all had to go there. And hey, that's desert living, man. So you hear Pops, even he knows about, that 29 Palms hustle. But I'm sorry, keep going.
No problem. But guess what? Because a couple of guys have similar names, like a senior and a junior, a first and a second, third and a fourth. Well, both of them could be innocent, but because, listen, a woman does not, or girl does not have to submit any proof when they file a lawsuit saying this guy is the father of my kid. All she has to do is point at you, put your name down, and you are presumed guilty. So that starts the mechanism to take punitive actions against the guy. And let's put it this way. The guy who's in state number 2, if they can't find guy number 1, they can go after the second guy and say, well, listen, because he didn't show up at court for a hearing he didn't know anything about. And they say, well, look, we served the first guy, and that was you, and you tried to avoid service. So now they execute a judgment against him in court, and all of a sudden now he becomes the dad by mistaken identity and by this fourth vehicle. It's called incorrect default judgment. In the process of me becoming an advocate, I learned more about how did all these million plus men and boys become victims of paternity fraud. For some of them, they said, I don't even know this woman. I've never seen her, never touched her, don't know anything about her. But he had the same name as the guy she claimed, and they came after him because he had the same name. Well, there's a lot of holes in the process of enforcement. So to have your business license at risk, your freedom is at risk, your finances at risk, your driver's license is at risk, then that the child support enforcement agencies and the family court, they should have to operate on the principles of truth. And why do we need a law? Because if you have a law in place that says if this guy meets these conditions, you can't take his money. You have to take his name off of everything. In fact, you got to let him go. You can't take his passport, you can't take his business license, his driver's license. And by the way, get your hands off his money. That's my attitude and my position. So when you've heard me say things like this, Sergeant WarDawg, like, gentlemen, protect yourself at all times. When in doubt, do recon. Get some research done so that you know what the lay of the land is. And if you are being targeted, you need to know how the enemy operates towards you. You need to know what must you do to deal with them when you engage them in their arena, because they're going to make you learn their language. Because I'm sure you, Sergeant WarDawg, if you had to go to a foreign land, you also had to learn how to communicate in that land, right?
Right. Excuse me. You have to find some means.
You got
And
to
in
find
armed
something.
signals, or having an interpreter is ideally what you want. But
Exactly.
sometimes, not being able to have access to enough of them becomes an issue.
I could agree
So
with that.
yeah,
Well, it's similar thing. It's a similar thing here in the States. So a veteran who comes back to the States and comes in contact with the family court is going to need an advocate, and they're going to need an interpreter, because what your skills and how you know how to engage enemies in combat, there are some parallels in terms of tactical strategies, right? But it's not one for one. You're not going to be able to use your firearms there. You can't use your skills in hand-to-hand combat. You're going to have to learn how to become tactical, defensive, offensive strategy, and you got to come in with a mindset to win. And when you come in that way, you got to like, well, look, it's not my duty to to be responsible for other people's actions and conduct that got them where they are. I need to save myself. And when I encounter these, I have to tell guys repeatedly, Sergeant WarDawg, don't feel guilty for what kind of position this is going to leave them in, because this was done without your consent. It was, you didn't have any participation in this. And if you still want to do something for the kid after you find out the kid is not yours, if they will let you see the kid and you spend time with the kid, it should be voluntarily. It should be based out of your own free will and your own decision. Nothing under a court order where someone can take your license or your freedom and put you through any type of manipulation and mental anguish. I hope you can respect where I say protect yourself at all times. I
definitely,
see you got my
definitely.
page up. That
Um,
is the Paternity Coach. As the author of Trapped by Law, I wrote that book to shed more of the information on that you can be taken advantage of and get blindsided when you don't know how family court works. And when you don't know, is that's the ideal time you would get taken advantage of, because you don't know what your options are. And then to protect yourself, you're also going to need, sometimes you're going to need to have legal help. I have a course that I'm what do you call it? I'm a reseller advocate for a college professor, a law professor, who is teaching people how to learn the law and how to represent themselves, not just in family law, but in all areas of law. So you can learn how to do it for yourself when your money is not, when your resources are limited, you have more time to learn. And if you don't have that, then there are legal services plans where I advocate for using attorneys who represent a membership to help the person with something they need to resolve. There's over 20 areas of law, and the membership law firms cover all of those areas. So having access to legal help is something I've made sure I will never be without for as long as I live. I ended up winning my case finally using a legal services plan, and I got it all done, Sergeant WarDawg, on that final hearing. I got it done for less than $1,700. Prior to that,
yeah,
I had gone through more than $50,000 in legal fees. Overall, it cost me over $300,000 in a 5-year fight to the U.S. Supreme Court. I don't want anybody else to have to go through that. Nobody with a son, nobody with themselves, and none of the vets. We want to make sure that they don't get caught up in this trap.
right on, right on. Definitely love that. Um, you haven't discussed your book nor where everyone can find you online, social media, etc.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sergeant WarDawg. I am thepaternitycoach.com. So the best way, I think, to get access to my book so that you get exposure to my social media and everything else is you go to thepaternitycoach.com, THE, paternitycoach.com. You see, I was a best-selling author of Trapped by Law. It became a bestseller in 3 categories. Um, and the book is called Trapped by Law. And the one of the links to the book and to some of my other to DNA tests, to ancestry tests, uh, to getting your own uh, video uh, video tools you can use. Listen, there are times you could be falsely accused of stuff that your video cam will make the difference in proving what you said happened actually happened. I'm a big advocate of using the Johnny Depp strategy to get proof and use that proof with a legal advocate to help you win your case. So thepaternitycoach.com gets you to all of my social media pages. That's the Facebook page, YouTube, X, as well as IG. Haven't really populated the IG page that much. Got to work on that. But it has been an honor and a pleasure to be on Sergeant WarDawg with you. And I hope something that's said here will be informative and educational to the vets, and that they will take this information and share it. Let's help the guys who are already vets and the cats that will become vets. Let's make sure they don't get taken advantage of.
All right. Great deal. If you don't mind, really quick, all guests, can you give us your 3 favorite guns before you all have to take off? Did you hear me?
Was that for me?
Yes. Can you tell us, to the war veteran viewers, can you let us know your personal choice of your 3 favorite guns? We like to ask everyone at the end of the show.
Oh, okay.
There's no right or wrong.
All right. Give me a second. Springfield
please don't show it
XD9. I'm not showing anything.
Nice.
Springfield
I appreciate
XD9 subcompact with 16 round clips. That's one.
Nice.
2 for a little light action. I think it's a Ruger long range LR22. It's got about a 5-inch barrel. It's a great little fun thing to use. Can't use it outdoors unless you got a backstop or you way out in the country. Okay. And I think I want to get me an AR-15. I've seen your setup that you have with the night scope. I got laser and I also got the optics. I think I want to get me an AR-15 too.
All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, once again, this has been episode 143 of the WarDawg podcast, where we had the one, the only Mr. Carnell Smith Sr., okay, who you can find on the screen as well at paternitycoach.com. All right. Dad, appreciate you coming on the show. Salute. Love you.
All right. Salute,
everyone.
Sergeant WarDawg.
Have a good one.
Take care.
Gotcha. Remember, you can find out more about us and the show and Camp Doghouse on sergeantwardawgtv.com or campdoghouse.org. Let me see. Hey, this has been a great episode, like I told you it would be. You guys know I only bring the best on the show, and the perspective and the knowledge. Even having to deal with paternity fraud, man, is just, it's a reality that, but we're glad we had something like them on the TV.